Now the valve should unscrew unimpeded. Hi everybody. Today at Millstone Firewood, we are doing maintenance on the old decrepit log splitter. This thing, the detent is bad. The O-rings are probably shot. This piece here I fabricated, which actually functions, but I went to get a rebuild kit for this, and by the time I bought the detent assembly and the O-rings, I could have bought a new valve, so I just bought a new valve. So what I'm going to do today is tear this off of here and put the new valve on. To remove this valve, this has to be done in sequence. So the first fitting to come off is going to be the pressure side of the pump. So we'll pull this one off. The next will be the return side, which goes down here to the filter housing. That'll be number 2. And then this whole tube has to come off. And then once that's off, then we can unscrew the valve from here. So I'm being lazy, and I'm just going to use a what we affectionately call an all 16ths. Put an oil pan under. Now I've already operated the handle. Do it again just to make sure there's no pressure anywhere on the system. Yep. That drain. Next we have to remove this pressure hose from the valve end of it. And I'm trying to do this without flinging hydraulic oil everywhere on the other side. There we go. Right. Just hold this up for a minute or two. The oil pan is underneath the whole valve. Now I'll remove the return hose. And I'm hoping that this one doesn't have a whole lot of oil in it because it's a fairly large hose. That's a good enough place for it. There we go. Now it's out of the way. All right, next is the Stihl tube, and that one's going to be tricky because of where it is. They should come off pretty easy. That one loosened right up, no problem. But because this changes direction, this one's going this way and this one's going this way, we have to take this one off as well. Make sure that's lined up. Going to put this back on here loosely for the sole purpose of spilling oil all in the grass. I need a bigger oil pan. Should have just grabbed this one to begin with. Let's see, there's just enough of a breeze today that every drop of oil is getting blown around. Alright, so this isn't ideal, but this should unscrew fairly easily. Yep, comes right off. Now hopefully it will go, oh boy, no it won't either. Okay, so I have to remove this fitting. Now if you do this, take care when you put your wrench on this fitting, don't bugger the threads on this JIC fitting, because then you're going to be out of luck and you're going to have to go find a new JIC fitting. Okay, so this is all right. We're going to put that aside, and now we should be able to take this off the rest of the way. And you know what, while it's mounted to the machine, I'm going to pull this return fitting off too. Same deal with that one. Oh boy, okay. I need a bigger wrench. I'll be back. Now the valve should unscrew unimpeded. And there we go. Here's the new valve. Got some links, a handle, some destructions. You can get rid of that. It's rattling around in here. A cotter pin. Yes, that's not that I don't have cotter pins, but that's important. Not much to it, just flip it over. Tough to turn in. There we go. So I should be done with this. Okay. Now the links. Sure it's lined up. Give it a little tap. There's that. Put the cotter pin in. Trying to get the ends of the cotter pin to fold completely back around the pin, this retaining pin, because I don't want them sticking out where I'm going to snag my finger on it or anything. Now the cotter pin's in place, the links are in place. Now I'm going to put some fresh Teflon tape around this fitting, since this is the first one. I use the heavier, they call this gas line tape. It's just Teflon tape, but it's thicker. They make multiple grades of Teflon tape. You want to choose the one that is correct for the application. Although I tend to usually go with a little bit heavier. It just stands up better. And don't cover the last thread. It's not, well, try not to cover the last thread. Now we can take our plugs out. Sometimes this is a little trickier than you might think. The reason that you don't want to cover the last thread is because when you screw this in, sometimes the tape on the very end will tear off, and it can actually get into your system, which is undesirable. Okay. Pull this one out too, so while I have it handy. Okay, so now we will carefully thread this back on. I say carefully because it's weird having all this weight and then trying to get the thread started. All right, that went pretty well. Oh, let's see. One more. All right, I'm committed. One more turn. I got hydraulic oil all over my Teflon tape. Actually, this is automatic transmission fluid. Not exactly hydraulic oil. Okay. Wrapping the Teflon tape, you want let's see if I can explain this right. You want the end of the tape, when you tear this off, to be going away from the direction you're turning it. Does that make any sense? Okay, because if you put it this way and the end is here, when you tighten this, it's going to grab that end of the tape and it's going to unwrap it. So you have to put this on in the right direction. I hope that made sense. Maybe I didn't explain it too well. Yeah, okay. Put this in while the valve is at an angle like this. Otherwise, if it's too close, now obviously your machine is going to be different, but just make sure that you can get this in without it interfering with anything. What you want to do now is you want to make sure that this fitting is going to line up with this tube. Now that can be a little bit tricky because now we've removed everything. I'm going to get the thread started on here. Going to attempt to start the threads. Okay, threads are started there. It's not a bad idea to wipe off your JIC fittings. If at all possible, you want to wipe the beveled surfaces. 37-degree bevels, and you don't want dirt trapped on those bevels because then it will leak. Okay. Now you don't want to put the death grip on these. Just get them so they're snug. Obviously you're going to check for leaks later. At this point, I'm going to remove my oil pans Do not reuse your oil. It's a sacrifice. Unless you have a way of filtering it very, very well, don't try to reuse it. It's just not worth it. Any contaminants from all, you know, I'm up here working, I'm dropping little paint chips and who knows what else, bird poop, whatever, it's getting down into the oil. Don't try to reuse it. It's just put new stuff in. So the next hose I'm going to put on is pressure hose. Try to wipe off some of the oil here. I don't have a cap for this, but I'll check it again. I don't want to get dirt in there. Now, if there's a lot of loose Teflon tape, pull that off. I don't worry too much about it as long as I know I can get some fresh tape around here. What's up here isn't really going to matter because it's not even screwed in that far. My oil soaked tape here. Now I like to start up at the top because then I can put my thumb on it. Sometimes I'll even do that. And then you want to try to do a minimum of 3 wraps. And again, like I said, avoid that last thread. Some people say avoid the last 3 threads, but I don't like that. Now this plug has some little tabs on it. That should make it a little bit easier. Now there's gonna be a little bit of hydraulic oil come out of this. Well, maybe a little more than a little bit. That was more than I expected. And that's just coming out of the cylinder, or the splitting ram. I'm trying to do this without making a mess. This is tricky because the whole, yeah, all right, I gotta move the camera. The whole hose is fighting me as I'm turning it, so it's twisting. It's bending and twisting, and it's making my threads not line up. So you have to have a little patience with this. There we go. Okay, that got it. Now, being the pressure side, you definitely want to make sure that this is nice and tight. Sure you get some good thread engagement there. Now we'll bring this over to the other side and connect it to the pump. Now it's a JIC fitting on the pump. You do not use Teflon tape. 37-degree flare fitting is what a JIC is. JIC is used typically for hydraulics. Wiped off inside the fitting, and I've wiped off this, the male fitting, and now I know that there's no dirt in there. Again, this is the pressure side. You want this to be right and tight. However, like I said, you don't want to put the death grip on it. Just good and snug. We're going to put this one in, wipe off our threads a little bit. Once again with the Teflon tape. Whoops. That's why I like to start up top here, keep my thumb on it. Okay. There we go. This yellow tape can be found at Lowe's or Home Depot, I believe. and probably most plumbing supply stores will have this. So that you can get this at those kind of stores, or you can get even heavier tape if you're working with stainless steel. I can explain that another time, but you can get that at industrial supply stores. Now we thread this one in. Now this is the low pressure side. So this is just taking the oil that is bypassed from the ram as the ram goes back and forth, and it's just pushing it back through the filter. One more time around. Actually, hang on a sec. Let's see. I forget which way it was facing. Is it facing this way? I think it was. Yes, it was facing this way. That's not overly tight. There. And you know it's low pressure because it's held on here with hose clamps. All right, so I'm just going to wipe this off. Tight. I'll tighten these hose clamps. Now these hose clamps, definitely want these about as tight as you can get them, but I'm still just using a nut driver for these. That's it. Replacement of the splitter valve. Don't be intimidated by these things. It's really not hard to do. It just takes a little time, and it's, you know, a little bit messy. I want to wipe off all my fittings anywhere that oil has leaked, because the next thing I do is when I start this up, I'm going to have to look for any leaks. So all the fittings have to be clean and dry. I know I lost about a gallon of oil doing that job, but what I'm going to do, since most of it came out of the ram, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it, I want to operate it back and forth, check for leaks, and then I'll refill the oil. So we can get this thing started. This thing is obnoxiously loud. I didn't see any leaks yet. I say yet because we just briefly ran it. So now I'm going to check the oil level. Oh yeah. Now I got to get some oil and fill it up. This machine takes Dexron 3 automatic transmission fluid, or ATF. It states that right here. Anytime you're filling hydraulic fluid, make sure that your funnel is very clean, because in this case, like in this case, whatever you put in here is going right into the pump. There's no filter between this reservoir and the pump. So if you get contaminants in here, it has to go through your pump first before it goes through the filter. The filter is only on the return side. Again, when you're doing this, clean off the top of your container that you're pouring from. There's all these little bits and chibbles and whatever is on here. You don't want that falling into the reservoir. So get that nice and clean, wiped off. It only takes a second. Only takes a second to do it right, but if you do it wrong and you get dirt in there, you could easily tear up your pump, and then that is expensive. I'm going to pull this up, and I'm going to do this cleaning again because there's dirt around this neck here. Alright, so as I said, I lost at least a gallon. Now it gives you an indication. The dipstick on this fell out long ago, so I'm just going to fill it up to roughly here. You need a little bit of room for expansion. And pour in about as much as I think I lost. No, I have quite a ways to go, I can see. Hard to believe I've gone through almost 5 gallons of transmission fluid with this thing. But when the dipstick fell out, the dipstick fell down into the tank. You can probably guess the first place it went, the suction for the pump. So it got stuck in there. The only way I could get it out was to cut a hole in the tank and reach in there and retrieve it. So that was an interesting job. I didn't do video of that. I said you don't want to overfill because it's got to have room to expand, and when it expands, if it's over full, it's going to expand right out of the filler neck, and then you'll have another mess on your hands. I think we're going to call that good. Now I'll show you this little thing here that I did. When I cut a hole in the tank, obviously that put all kinds of slag and oxide and all kinds of mess inside the tank, and I had to, of course, I reached in and wiped out as best as I could, but you know, my arm was only so long. So what I did was I attached a magnet to my new and improved filler tube, and the magnet goes down in the hydraulic oil. So that goes down in here. Then what happens is, if there's any metal particles that become suspended in the oil, the magnet will grab them. And it has. It's actually grabbed a few pieces of metal. That's good because I don't want it going into the pump. We are done with the valve replacement. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up. And also please consider subscribing so that I can grow my channel. Again, thank you very much. Have a great day.